so tonight I'm just gonna talk about some Icelandic insults. You know, the kind of bad words that you would throw at another person, you know, when you want to speak down to them or humiliate them or whatever. Now, the severity of the words that I'm gonna use here varies a lot, so some of them are just kind of silly, but some are definitely like genuinely hurtful. Like I'm not condoning the use of these words, but I know, based on the video that I made about slurs and curses, how much you enjoyed that, so this is going to be in a similar vein. So yeah, let's just dig right into it. Kolbett, what's the first word on our list?
Yeah, the first word on the list is hálfviti and fæðingarhálfviti.
Alright, so hálfviti, or which translates directly to half-wit. Fæðingarhálfviti is just a more silly version of hálfviti. I've never seen it outside of comics and stuff. I don't think I've ever heard it used real life, but hálfviti gets thrown around a lot, and this is the sort of word that, yeah, if you use it again towards a complete stranger angrily, like "Hvað ertu að gera, hálfviti?" then it's very serious, but it's also the kind of thing that bros will often call each other, you know, when we're having a few beers and having fun, like "Hvað ertu að gera, hálfvitin þinn?" you know, like that, you know. It's so, but that's like that with most of these insults. It's, you know, it all depends on the context. So yeah. Okay, next up.
This one is my personal favorite. Fíbl.
Yeah, fíbl is. Fíbl also just means, yeah, idiot or dumbass. It doesn't get used as much nowadays as I remember hearing it more when I was young, but don't think it's being used as much now. And it's also a very weak sauce insult. Like you would not sound threatening if you were like let's say to a complete stranger who just banged into your car in the parking lot. You wouldn't be, "Hey, fíbl." Yeah, exactly. It doesn't sound very threatening.
Heimskingi.
Heimskingi. Yeah, this is a very childish insult. It literally means dumbass. Like well, or you know, to be dumb means to be heimskur, and it's just like dumb. A dumb person basically. A heimskingi. That's, yeah, it's a very childish thing. It's I think when we were like 7-year-old, that was to us like the harshest insult you could give to a person. We would be like, "Gummi er heimskingi." Wow, hann kallaði hann heimskingja. Gummi er svo mikill heimskingi. I want to note that I did not know a single gummi when I was a child, and not a child. Like gummi is a very common like nickname, but I didn't like I had no childhood friends who were named Gummi. So I'm not referring to anyone in particular, except you, Gummi. Gummi, þú suckar. Okay.
Okay, next up, rugglaður, and kolrugglaður.
Okay, so rugludallur, also a very childish insult. I think this might have been a very harsh insult like back in the day, long before I was born. But nowadays it's some like, let's say they are translating a foreign language children's cartoon into Icelandic, and they wanna, yeah, you know, for whatever childish insults exist in other languages, they would then just often translate to rugludallur, which means, so to be rugglaður is it's like rugglaður, it's like, you know, crazy and like not quite there in the head. And kolrugglaður simply means severely not quite there in the head. Kolbett, do you know how to translate rugglaður?
Maybe crazy?
Yeah, crazy would be more brjálaður.
Maybe kooky?
Yeah, kooky, yeah. Okay.
Like yeah. with an W, I think. W-I.
Whatever.
Asni og grasasni.
Okay, asni means ass. I mean ass as in, you know, the animal, you know, and what's so funny, Kolbe?
There's no way I'm not gonna laugh at you doing that.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, and again, it's a very childish insult. Again, you would not sound threatening if somebody scratched your car in the parking lot sounding, "Hey, Asni!" So no. But yeah, it's the sort of thing you would hear in like movies when they want to be PC and stuff. And grass asni or grass ass, that sounds ridiculous. That's, you know, just a harsher harsher way of referring to someone as an ass. Okay, next up.
Yeah, this one is basically a slur. Þroska.
Yeah, okay, so þroskaheftir. We might have already covered this in the video that I made about you know, yeah, slurs and curse words. So þroskaheftir used to be an actual clinical term about people, not all people with disabilities, but I think, yeah, like people that are like slow. I don't know how to clinically or whatever define it, but the special needs children of a certain type. Like I don't know how to somebody just the kind of people that has, you know, just doesn't have the cognitive ability of a person, a regular child or adult of that age. It's hard to define, but nowadays. Now, because this is a very, basically a slur, you know, nowadays this is not really used clinically anymore because it doesn't make sense in today's, where we know a lot more about mental disabilities and handicaps, you know, matters and this, so this doesn't fit into our today and age clinical sense of the word, but it is being used a lot just as in general insult. How hurtful it is, again, depends very much on the contents, you know, like I don't think I would recommend to use this against a complete stranger. Again, except maybe if they bumped into your car in the parking lot in a very dumb, unthoughtful manner, then yeah, call them þroskaheftir. Go ahead. It's also something that, you know, bros use a lot, like Kolbeinn maður, hann svo þroskaheftur, hefur séð það sem hann að elda. Sorry, Kolbeinn. But, you know, yeah, it's definitely something like bros throw around, and there are versions of it, like a more updated version, or first a harsher version of þroskaheftur would be keng þroskaheftur. So like he is really mentally deficient. Keng is just sort of this add-on that you can put in front of words to sort of enhance their descriptiveness. You know, it's like he's really mentally deficient. And a more modern version of this would be þrolli or þrollaður. He is completely þrollaður, and that's just, you know, like this is just something out of the this and day era slang that young people use. You know, they'll often shorten Icelandic words to make them include two L's. You know, like French fries, for example, will become fröllur. They're usually called franskar, and somebody shortened that into fröllur, added the double L in there. So that's so this is just a very modern slang take on this particular word, and I have to say I really love þrolli or þrollar. I think it sounds pretty funny, but yeah, it's mainly something that like bros throw around against, you know, within each other. It's not something you, like I said, it's not something you refer to strangers as, except in comment sections all over. Then you can see then it's a fair game. Everybody calls everybody þroskaheftir all the time. It's just yeah. You know how internet comments are like, basically.
Næst orð sem þú mættir helst ekki segja við ömmu þína.
Okay.
Það sem sagt tussa.
Þú hefur greinilega aldrei hitt ömmu mína. Tjóka. Okay, Yeah, I don't know. So, tussa. I don't know whether or not we covered this in the video where we did the slurs and stuff. So this is very insulting to women. I don't know what it... Like, I have no idea how to translate it. I guess it's just bits, I think. Well, what do you think, Kolbit?
Bitch myndi vera tík.
Yeah, okay, yeah. But, yeah, for tussa there is no... Or I can't think of anything. But, this is not something... Okay, yeah, if it's guy friends, they would definitely, like, throw this around against each other, but... Hvað ertu að gera þarna, tussa þín, or something. But it's not as commonly used in that context as some of the others that we've covered, but... yeah, that's... other than that, it's just a very hurtful word, so... I think you wouldn't most of the time not use it unless you were genuinely trying to be hurtful. So yeah. Of course, there are situations where the other person is in the wrong, when they're just completely bad or evil, or yeah, where they have just treated you very badly in some way, and yeah, then you might want to throw
just between you and me, though. Even if they were being completely evil, I would still prefer that some other word would be used for them.
Yeah. But then again, if it comes down to that, you might as well just go all the way and just beat them up, you know. But,
yeah, I mean, sure.
Yeah. But yeah, tussa, whatever it means, yeah, don't use that word. That's the moral of the story. I think belja is not next on the list, right?
It is next on the list.
Okay, belja...
It's also pretty hurtful.
Yeah, belja is simply a word for cow. Well, usually when we talk about cows, we just call them a ku, or plural would be kýr, but yeah, belja is sometimes, yes, I mean, I grew up in the countryside, and sometimes the farmers would just go, okay, we gotta go herd the beljur. So yeah, beljur, plural, belja, singular.
I mean, in my opinion, I think cows are really cool, so I have no idea why we started using that as an insult.
Yeah, like, but it is, well, when calling a person, that is definitely an insult.
It definitely is.
Yeah, but it's, but I think it's somewhat, like, it is, also get hurtful, but I don't think it's as hurtful as, for example, tussa, because it also just sounds kind of silly. But I think if you were to say call an overweight woman a belja, that would be very hurtful.
That would be way out of line. Oof.
But hey, maybe she's a complete tussa, you know.
Next on the list is actually two of my personal favorites. Mamma þín og amma þín.
Yes! Okay, so... Mamma þín, which you would never spell properly as mamma þín, it would always be mamma þín, slanged, and yeah, it means your mom. And when I was a kid, or teenager, I don't know, or more when I was a teenager during the 2000s, we would much more often say amma þín, your grandma. So I don't know if amma þín is still around, mamma þín is still around, but not being used as much. But I think this is also something that I don't think kids nowadays use it as much. I think, you know, during the late 90s, 2000s, it's when in the American movies and cartoons, your mama would be like the hottest cool kids insult, so we just translated it into, yeah, amma þín or mamma þín, or yeah, and then alternatively amma þín, but I don't think it's being used that much nowadays. And it's funny because I never remember this insult being used in a manner that made sense. It was always like you know, if I would ask a question about whomever, so hey, who lives in the farm up there? And somebody would shout to me, amma þín. Yeah, it was just this. It's just this silly teenager thing, you know. It doesn't mean anything. It's so I wouldn't say it's a hurtful insult. It's just a very dumb. It's not even an insult. It's just a dumb thing that teenagers say or used to say. Nice one.
That's a pretty good one. Sauður.
Sauður, yes, I love it. This is a very childish insult, But and I don't think I've heard it for a very long time. So a söður is, oh, fuck, I grew up on a farm, but so for what some okay. So I think that a söður is so lambs get born in the springtime, right? And most of them get slaughtered in the fall. And I think a söður is a year-old sheep, basically, that is, you know, about to breed for the first time. Or maybe that's a gimbur. I can't remember what exactly a söður is. Yeah, like I said. But I want to note for the record, I did not grow up on a sheep farm. I grew up on a horse farm, so my sheep farming terminology is not quite there. But yeah, it's used in as an insult. It's used in the context that when somebody is a söður, he's just dumb. So yeah, it's a different word, a different way of calling people dumbasses. So yeah, that would be söður plural, or a söður, a dumbass. And yeah, we should bring this back. This would be very fun, like between bros. Like, hvað ertu að gera þarna, söðurinn þinn? Okay, hvað næsta á listanum?
In English, it would be weakling.
Aumingi, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, he just translated it for me. So aumingi would be a weakling. Plurality would be aumingjar, many weaklings. This was, I remember being a child, and this would be one of the most hurtful thing anyone could ever call you. And in my experience, it's never, like, this is not something bros would use amongst each other. Sometimes a guy would say, like, you know, let's say we're doing an arm wrestling, and if, let's say, I would lose, not very likely in my case, but let's imagine that I lose an arm wrestling, I could be like, yeah, I know, ég algjör aumingi, ég ger ekki neitt í sjómann. But I remember as a child, when somebody called me, you know, somebody were to be like, þú ert aumingi, that would hurt, like, deep in the soul. So yeah, it's but then I've also seen it being used playfully in like comics, I think, you know, when they translate those into English and into Icelandic, but I could be mistaken on that. I think for the most part it's just used to hurt, so yeah. Anyway, what's next, content? Góð svínsljóð, kann að meta þetta. So, svín, pig. Same word for if it was multiple pigs. Yeah, oh, yeah, so it's just like mörg svín, pigs. This is not, I don't know why I even had this on the list, because this is not used a lot, but I think in some contexts, yeah, you could say that a person is a pig, but I don't know if it would be particularly insulting or hurtful. I think it would be just sort of weird, you know. I've never been called a pig. I don't remember calling anyone a pig ever, so often you say somebody is like a pig, like somebody eats like a pig, and now, in my experience, it's not that they eat a lot, it's more that they eat in a very dirty manner, like, you know, they get grease all over themselves, so yeah.
Jæja, næst drullusokkur og drulluhali.
Drullusokkur. This is a word that is still very popular, and...
Muddy sock.
Yeah, literally it means mud sock or muddy sock. However, technically, a drullusokkur is a certain tool or appliance that most people have in their home. It is a plunger. Veistu hvað, þú veist hvað?
Ég veit alveg hvað það er, þetta notar fyrir klósettið.
Exactly, this thing that you use to unclog toilets. So, however, as an insult, it really just means douchebag. Like, this is not something you would use to describe anyone who is, say, dumb or...
I think I'm more interpreted as a scumbag. A
yeah.
drullusokkur is not a douchebag, he's a scumbag.
If you ever catch people calling you a drullusokkur behind your back, you have done something to piss them off. Let's just keep it clear. Keep it real. Yeah. Oh, and Drulluhali, this is more of an old school way of saying drullusokkur. I haven't heard this for a very... You sometimes see it in Icelandic movies that take place in like the 50s or whatever, but I haven't heard it used anymore. I just wanted to have it with there because I thought it was funny. It literally means mud tail or muddy tail. But yeah, same meaning, it's just a drulluhali is just a scumbag.
You know the next one? Personally, I would translate it, speaking only for myself, as maybe silly Billy? Kjáni.
Ah, kjáni. Yeah, silly Billy. Silly Billy is a funny word. Yeah, this is not something that, this is definitely not a very hurtful insult. This is more something, this is something you would call to someone's face when they just did something kind of, not so very dumb, but maybe not the most thoughtful at the time. Like, æ, kjáni, verð ekki að þessu. Svona, æ, kjáni, komdu, látt ekki svona komum. Svona, this is the sort of thing, you, for example, when your mate has had one too many and he starts exposing his dick to traffic, it's just like, okay, come on, kjáni.
Okay, that's a little bit more than kjánlegt. I would go as far to say that's heimskulegt.
Yeah. But yeah, kjáni is just somebody that, yeah, is just behaving a little silly, you know, and making an ass of himself. So. But yeah, what's after kjáni?
Bjáni.
Bjáni, this is an even weaker version, I think, of than kjáni.
I would say it's a maybe 0.1% harsher.
Yeah. Okay, now we're gonna talk about some insults that are more that are you're not calling someone on something, but more just different kinds of insults where you tell people to do something or whatever. For example, hoppaðu upp í raskatið á þér, which literally means jump up your arse.
Or jump up your own ass.
Yeah, it's specifically you're not asking the person to jump into someone's ass, but that they jump into their own ass. And this is something that I think almost exclusively is being used in a very angry exchange against someone, you know. Usually when I'll also flip in the bird, you know, you tell them to hoppa upp í raskatið á þér. Then there is fokkaðu þér. I barely don't need to translate it. It's just the Icelandization of, you know, in Iceland instead of we often say fokk as just a curse. We write it F-A-K-K, sorry. And fokkaðu þér literally just means fuck you, but Icelandicized. This is a very new thing, obviously. Well, when I say new, it's I think in the past 20 years.
The more Icelandic version would be to say maybe like rittu þér.
Yeah, but rittu þér doesn't make any sense. Like the Icelandic word for to fuck, like fuck somebody sexually, that would be að ríða, to fuck. But like telling somebody farðu og rittu þér, it just like people would just look at you like, yeah. I could imagine this would be like a migrant that's like trying very hard to speak Icelandic correctly and just accidentally translating some things too directly, and yeah. Okay, eftir fokkaðu þér, hvað er?
Sjúttan.
Oh, sjúttan. Well, the proper way of spelling it would be sjúðu hann, but if you're trying to insult somebody, you would just say sjúttan, and yeah, it just means suck it. This is not commonly used, I think. At least I don't think I've ever been in a conversation, or in this case, an angry exchange of words where this was used. Maybe it's because you would only use it if referring to a woman, but then again, I think I know from experience, just, you know, hanging out with men that are homosexual or at least bi, that, you know, jokingly, you know, if somebody says to them sjúttan, they'd be like, okay, and start buttoning down their shirts, you know, just, you know, calling them out on their bluff, you know.
I really like this one because you're basically telling somebody to shit their own pants.
Oh yeah.
Skíttu á þig og skíttu í þig.
So skíttu á þig, yeah, literally means shit yourself. This is This is not an insult that you hear that much, but it is definitely an insult. It's something that you would say to somebody in a burst of anger, but it's also just kind of a weird insult. And an alternate take of that would be skýttu yfir, which literally means shit in yourself. I guess it's implying that you should shit your pants, but I don't know, maybe they want themselves, to shit inside them. I don't know. Type this into this particular search bar here on this particular website and maybe they have a better insight of what sitting in themselves means. Excrement is always funny. And while on the topic of excrement, what's next, Kolbeinn?
Gettu skít.
Yeah, which means eat shit. So yeah, this is also very old school. I don't think people nowadays use this like at all. But now this would, all these insults that I just mentioned, these eat shit and skýttu yfir and all that, that would definitely be used in a very angry context. It's not a thing that bros would say to each other. Not that it'd be that hurtful. Like I said, if you're talking to bros, it'd just be a sort of weird thing to say, I think. I don't know, Kolbeinn, have you heard this being used in any context?
I mean, I've heard it a few times, and I've even said it a few times myself. So, I mean, it's not a bad insult. It's just relatively rare.
Yeah, okay. Alright, looks like we covered everything, so now when you come to Iceland you can engage in a very fun conversation with the locals right before we beat your ass up and make you shit yourself. And this was a lot of fun. These videos are the most fun to film, I think. Anyway, I hope you found this video interesting and above all informative. And yeah, if you liked it, like and subscribe, and definitely leave comments because it helps with the algorithm and all of that. And I'll see you all in the next video. Take care.